What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. My strategy is today, let's pretend like we're all meeting in a coffee house and we're just sitting and chatting. Because actually, this is the first time that Dave and Pete, you guys have been on together, right?
That's correct. Yep.
We've followed each other on Twitter for probably 10 years.
I have no idea. My Twitter feed is such a dumpster fire now that it's hard to even keep track of what's going on.
Well, and even though
it's getting darker, I'll tell you that much. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yesterday was really dark.
Christ.
Yesterday was.
Well, it's just every single thing is the kind of stuff that if you were prone to it, your blood would boil. Just everything now, just absolutely everything.
I'm off Twitter for Lent. I'm not. I have 40 days. I have a 40-day 40 days in the wilderness to be away.
You're going to be
Twitter.
Clueless by the time you get off, though. You're going to not know what's going on.
Oh, people just keep sending me stuff over and over again.
There is that. Yes.
What's what's been standing out to you, Dave, from a darkness standpoint as of late on there?
It's just no matter what it is. First of all, it's Epstein all day. Second of all, there's just nothing that isn't somehow. Give me a cat video. I mean, I want something that's not.
That's what I still share with my wife. I still share with my wife at least one cat video.
They're not even real. That's the problem. And if it's about Trump, it's about Iran, it's about China, it's about, Ukraine, it's about everything. And everything is just dark and you don't know what to believe, right? Everything's bullshit. Everything's not bullshit. I don't know what to make of it. I'm following the Lutnick story. That strikes me as a timely thing. He's getting beat up pretty good right now.
Good. He deserves it.
I know he does. I know he does.
He's that one email where he says, I have 8 kids with me. Apparently he only has 4 kids. Ryan Dawson did the math on it. One of his kids would have been minus 2 years old at that time. So who the hell's kids were they? And it's like, and this is supposed to be after he has, already said, I won't have anything to do with that guy. That guy was a creep. But then he's still, he's still emailing and going to visit him on the island. I mean, this is
buying property from him and stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff.
Peter Mendelsohn got arrested today.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
It just came over the New York
Times. That's a domino.
Passing secrets to Epstein.
Which is the same thing they gave to Prince Andrew. Which strikes me as a highly sanitized version of banging little kids.
Well, here's the thing. I think we know this from what's become Western culture. You could do more time and be punished harder for treason than you can for banging kids.
Right. But you won't get that either.
Yeah.
Neither is particularly long jail terms. And I can't tell you when the last person of prominence went to jail. Ghislaine supposedly is in jail. I'm not even convinced she's in there. I'm not even positive she's in there. I'm not convinced Epstein's dead. I'm not convinced of anything. But if you think about it, the last guy who went to jail for serious sort of diddling kids was Denny Hastert, I think.
And no one ever brings it up.
And he only went for 15 months. Months. You diddle a kid. First of all, you should at least come out missing some body parts, right?
He was probably in protective custody, and you would think that the Democrats would still be throwing that in the face of Republicans every day. You had a Speaker of the House that was a kitty diddler. No one brings it up. Why?
Right. It's like January 6th. Where were the Republicans, right? The post-January 6th response, where were the Republicans? Now, I had to edit what I'd written about it, and my blood was boiling again. The post-January 6th, arrest some guy who's, outside the barrier filming. He did it. There's a guy who did a Tucker podcast last week who told just a horror story. He never went in. The cops said, you just keep filming. And next thing he knows, he's in prison living in an inch deep of urine and feces with no water, putting Clorox in his food, shit like that. 75% of the guards were foreign nationals. It just drives me crazy. I go, this is not supposed to happen in this country. Just period. QED.
Never forget that 4 of them killed themselves while they were in there.
That's right. That's correct. And 4 cops killed themselves too, which is hyper suspicious. Hyper suspicious.
You want to talk about the cops that saw Anthony Weiner's laptop?
Yeah, 9 of them. Yeah, all dead.
At watching, I know this seems like I'm pivoting, but I'm sure you watched the Huckabee Tucker interview. Right?
I did.
Now, I know that you're a I guess humanist atheist, Dave. So a lot of that really means nothing to you. But
I wouldn't call myself an atheist. I actually do not wish to practice religion. But a handful of years ago, I wrote about why the hell I realized that that I was benefiting and living in a civilized world because of religion, and I should be careful not to forget that. And just because I personally don't want to practice it doesn't mean that it hasn't brought order to an otherwise chaotic world. So atheist is too strong a term. I don't know what to call me at this point. So,
ignoring that, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours here in Alabama, in central Alabama. You may know who I'm talking about. But we were talking about, he asked the question this morning: why is an American WASP forced to interview a nutjob evangelical minister governor in the diplomatic wing of Ben Gurion Airport?
I remember who sent that. So he sent me an email.
Yeah.
Is it public that you guys can say or no?
I'll let Peter say it if he wants.
He wants to stay anonymous.
WB.
Yeah. He so answer that. What the hell is that?
I wouldn't have gone if I were Tucker, for starters. I would not have gone to Israel. I mean, I think that.
Why do you think he did that, Dave?
Fuck. I think he wanted Huckabee's hide so badly that he took the chance. I'm pretty optimistic about Tucker being legitimately, authentically now convinced that he has his purpose, and I don't think he's a fake at all.
No. And people want to bring up that his dad was in the CIA and everything.
Who cares?
It was the Cold War. Everyone had somebody in their family who was in intelligence. My grandfather. Yeah. My dad was military intelligence. I mean, okay, so what? I never went into the military. But I think what Tucker, from what I've heard, is that when Tucker talks to Trump, one of his main focuses is all of the anti-white rhetoric that's happening. That's a big focus of his. And I think he projects that also to Ireland and to England, where they're being overrun by hordes. And I think his line of questioning about, okay, if Israel has a right to exist, why doesn't, and they have a right to, and this was something that he didn't pick up on that I would have hammered on. At one point, Huckabee said, if they can keep it, basically, if they can defend it. Okay, what does that look like? I mean, does that mean every Pakistan that England, the English have a right to pick up every Pakistani in the country and expel them from their country? I say yes. And I think that's what he's trying to get at. But Huckabee will not answer that question because he's so focused on Israel is the only special country in the world. I'll bring this up. Congressman Don Bacon from Nebraska? Apparently he's
not really.
Yeah.
He's just pissed off, fed up.
Oh no, Congressman Don Bacon from Nebraska, last year on Twitter, I publicly got him. I asked him a question. I said, one of these two countries has to disappear from the map, the United States or Israel. Choose one. And he said, read the book of Revelation. How?
That's not
why?
good.
Why are we electing people who basically worship and think that the state of Israel is the only country on the planet that has a right to exist in its current form?
Let me ask you to explain a couple things about Huckabee that don't make sense to me. The big question to me that I don't understand is what is a Christian Zionist? I don't even understand what that is, and I'm not playing stupid on you. But the second question, which is a simpler question, a much more focused question, is why did Huckabee do the interview?
I was just going to say that, actually. Why, knowing that, not to cut you off,
Because Tucker can slice and dice you like a Jinsu knife, right? Tucker can tear you up.
Well, and Ted Cruz, you saw the Ted Cruz interview.
Right.
So he knows what he's walking into. That's what, I mean, the whole thing to me, and I wonder with all this stuff is, is it all kayfabe? Like, why would Tucker go there knowing the risk that was involved in it? And then why would Huckabee even agree to do it? This episode is brought to you by Vaulted. Launched by McIlvaney Financial Group. With Vaulted, I literally just tap a button and bam, I own physical gold stored in a professional vault. I can also take delivery at any time. Extremely simple and less expensive than any other method. The do-it-yourself way to buy precious metals. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to vaulted.blbvux.net/coffeeandamike. I mean, look at how easy this is. The Vaulted app on my phone, I can access it at any time.
Well, Tucker's been too damaging to be kayfabe, I think. Tucker's been too damaging to accuse him of being kayfabe.
He's way off the reservation. He's way off the reservation. I think Huckabee is just filled with hubris, and he believed that he could handle it. I believe he thinks he's one of the smarter guys in the room, and that he would be able to handle this without doing all the dancing he did. And when you look at that, when he's just dancing around questions, I mean, there were a couple questions that I really wanted to ask him. Like when I thought a good question that he brought up, that Tucker brought up, was, how do we even know Benjamin Netanyahu is Jewish? First of all, he's not religious.
He's from Poland or something, right? He's from Poland.
He's from Europe. He's from Europe. Now they don't even allow DNA tests for right of return now, because so many dark Africans were showing up as having enough DNA to come into Israel, which they don't want. So now it goes to a council of rabbis, and a council of rabbis looks at your story and tries to look at your lineage and everything. So when he asked him that, how do we know that these people who came from Europe never spoke Hebrew in their life, changed their names? There's only been one prime minister who didn't change their name in the history to sound more Middle Eastern, in the history of Israel since 1948.
Who is that?
I think it was Begin. I think Begin was born Menachem Begin. But every other one changed their name to sound. I mean, it's Benjamin Milikowski. And I can't remember what a couple of the other ones' real names were. But okay, so how do we even know that these people are Jewish? I mean, because if they don't practice, I remember one time Ben Shapiro said 10 years ago, he said, I don't care if somebody, says they're Jewish. A Jew to me is someone who practices the religion. Then, of course, my question was, okay, so how many Jews died in World War II? But anyway, we can leave that alone. But how do we know? And I think that's a really good question, because another reason they stopped doing DNA tests is because through Professor Shlomo Sand's work, and I think it was Arthur Kessler, when they did DNA tests on the Palestinians, they came up a lot of Jewish DNA. Like they had been there for 2,000 years. Muslims had conquered and said, you know, if you convert to Islam like they always do, you don't have to pay taxes. Now, what Jew is not going to take that up? Come on. So you have all of these Palestinians who are running around with Jewish DNA, and they stopped doing DNA tests. Well,
they used to do DNA tests. When did it start and stop?
I'd have to go to Grok and go to that. But I went to Grok recently and asked them about, you know, how they do right of return now, and they said it's a council of rabbis. Okay. So I mean, I can go to Grok and ask. I'm off of X for Lent, but I will go to go to Grok.
Shouldn't you be immune from Lentil responsibilities when you're recording, Pete? I mean, doesn't that kind of go out the window?
No, this is more about.
I think God would be okay. I think God would be okay.
This is more about this is about discipline. This isn't about this is a lot about discipline.
So they couldn't have started before about 19. I have to remember back about 85, I would guess, is when the DNA test would have started to become usable. And I'm not sure if they had that level of technology yet.
Okay, so all right, but I thought that was a really good question, and some of the other a question that I would have asked is after he said, well, you know, he's an ethnic Jew. My question would have been, okay, so you're saying that these people, you know, that these Jews are the children of Abraham and that there is a promise made to them. If Benjamin Netanyahu dies tomorrow, God forbid, and he hasn't accepted Jesus Christ and you're a Christian minister, where does he go?
I really am out of my league here.
I mean, but I can tell you exactly what he would have done. Any Christian minister worth their salt, my father was one later in life, would say, well, if you die without Jesus Christ, you go to hell. I guarantee you Huckabee would have said, well, you don't, only God knows somebody's heart. I mean, he already gave himself away in this thing showing that he just cares about Israel, doesn't care. He talked about Israel as we.
So explain to me the Christian Zionists. That's what I don't understand. Okay. I don't, that to me strikes me as like saying a Japanese Chinese or something. It seems contradictory. What is a Christian Zionist?
Is there a delicate way to communicate that too? So that way, from the channel standpoint?
Don't get you blocked. Right. Well, there must be a Google definition. I mean, there must be a Google level definition. No,
because you'll get different schools of theology that will say that deviate. Basically, what Christian Zionists believe is that the state of Israel needs to be the old state of Israel needs to be formed again, and then they have to rebuild the temple, and that they have to start sacrificing animals again for the propitiation of sins. And then this starts the ball rolling that Jesus comes back and judges everybody.
Okay.
And Christians are so many Christian. I mean, and this is basically a 200-year-old heresy. If you look if you look at the history of the church, which is over a little over 2,000 years old now, you may find somebody mentions something like this, but this was never considered to be teaching until, strangely enough, right around the time people started writing on Zionism in Europe. Right at the same time, you start having the first proto-Zionist writings, which are Jews are writing about how, we need to have our own land. We are the chosen people. We've been a land without a people without a land for a long time. We're floating around. We're getting pogromed everywhere we go. We need to have our own land. And right around that same time, a Christian teaching comes up parallel to it that says, oh, these Jews are the key to Christ coming back. This is most most publicized and fleshed out in what is called the Schofield Study Bible, which is a Bible that has a bunch of notes and maps that shows how all this has to happen for Jesus to come back. And this is how the Jews
Now, the
are still the
Schofield
people of
Bible
God.
is one specific copy of the Bible, or it's one of the writings of the Bible? Are there many copies of the Schofield Bible, or is there one copy of the Schofield Bible?
The Schofield Bible is a version of the Bible. So you have the King James version, you have all these different, and then the Schofield Bible is notes surrounding it. So you basically pick up the Bible and it looks like any other Bible, except there's notes around it telling you what the scripture means. And it's piecing together all of this to say the Jews are still the people of God. God still has a plan for them. And until they get Israel back and start sacrificing, and Jesus doesn't come back. So, and it's more than that. But, you know, I will say that the main person who got the Schofield Bible put into Moody Bible College and into all of these Christian seminaries is one you may have heard of before. His name is Samuel Untermeyer. And
yes, I have heard that name.
Samuel Untermeyer was a Jewish lawyer and financier, and I think he may have even worked in the government at some point, but he was also part of secret Zionist societies in the early 20th century who were working to reestablish the state of Israel, to take Palestine and turn it into Israel. And he was the one who helped promote it. He was the one who got it into colleges. And it just seems strange to me that a Jewish man would be so concerned about a Bible getting put into Christian colleges.
But not really.
That's Christian really. Zionism. No, but not really. No, I mean, if you have ulterior motives, sure.
That's right.
There's a great book out there that a lot of people haven't read, and it's very short book. It's called Against Our Better Judgment by Allison Weir. How the U.S. was used to help found the state of Israel. And the great thing about this book is, even though the body of the book is about 100 pages, there's about 100 pages of references in it. And it talks about these secret societies that were started, that had Felix Frankfurter in it. Justice Brandeis was in it, and they had infested colleges. It's called the Parisham, this one secret society, and it had one Supreme Court justice, one future Supreme Court justice, and it was recruiting in colleges Gentiles and Jews who would take an oath above their family loyalty to help establish the state of Israel. And this is in the 1910s. This starts. And Allison
I
Weir's
read
book.
Ilan Pappé's book, something like A Short History of the Founding of Israel or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a reasonable presentation in the sense he clearly is pro-Palestinian, but it wasn't what I'd call a diatribe or a screed. It seemed as though it was just a Palestinian-centered analysis. And what was most useful to me, the part that I was 100% ignorant of, is the 20s and the 30s, as opposed to for ignoramuses like me, Israel. The story of Israel begins in 1945, right? And that's simply not even close to true.
Yeah, and one of the big tensions with the Jewish community in the United States government was the 1924 Immigration Act. They saw that as targeting them. Maurice Samuel's book, You Gentiles, which is a hateful diatribe of a Jewish man telling Gentiles why they're beneath him, he reveals at the ending, I'm writing this because of the because of pending immigration law that's coming into the United States.
This is in the 20s?
And he's writing this in 1923, where they're getting ready to pass a 1924 immigration law. And then people are like, well, Maurice Samuel wasn't popular. He was the most well-read. He was read by more Jews at the time. And then he went on to get a radio show in New York City that he had until the 1970s, where he kept talking about this stuff. So even after the state of Israel, which he's like, oh, we need the state of Israel. And he never moves there, of course, because, I mean, you can't have the state of Israel unless you have a diaspora. I mean, that's the only thing that makes it's the only thing that makes any sense to me, is why you have to have so many billionaires living in other countries and influencing their politics.
So I have taken the liberty of speaking with many Jewish friends of mine to try to find out man on the street view of what's going on. And I can't say that I find a lot who seem to support this idea of, Greater Israel Project and things like that. It seems to me that what we're seeing coming out of Israel is not broadly supported by the Jewish community. Is that valid?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always Naxal, right? Not all X are like this.
Right.
But when you look at, whenever you see someone publicly supporting it, it's somebody
we
of
know
means.
Who that is. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's somebody of means. It's somebody who has a lot of influence. There's this term.
I mean, Dave knows this because he got hammered this summer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a great appearance too, Dave. That was.
Well, it was really a non-event. It was really a non-event. I said almost nothing, but then I got mad because I got pissed off because I go, look, you guys, you're someone else referred to it as nitpicking the bark off trees.
Well, here's the thing. Here's one thing I wanted to say. Okay, so Huckabee also said in that he brought up this that Ted Cruz brought up. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. And it's very rare that I do on my podcast solo shows where I just sit there and talk,
rant,
and rant. But I did an episode where I said, okay, so where are the blessings? And
right.
I brought up that, Israel has existed for, let's just say that the United States has supported Israel since 1973. And, I went through this whole list of.
Doesn't it go way earlier than that? That seems too late for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been supporting it, but I just picked 1973 because I'm like this. Okay, so what percentage of, if we've been blessing Israel, we should expect some blessings. So what percentage of the United States was white Europeans in 1973? It was 83%. Now it's 58%. Average home cost, new, $32,000. Now it's $480,000. Average household income in 1973 is $12,000. That's 2.5 times the average home cost. Now it's 80. The average household income is 82,000. That's 5.25 times percent. The full pension retirement. 45 to 50% of people in the private sector had full pensions in retirement. Now it's 11 to 13%. Birth rate among Anglo-Americans was 15.5 births per thousand. Now it's 9.2. Incarceration rate has gone up 6 times. The murder rate has dropped, so that's good. Average student debt was $10 billion.
God.
At that time. It's 1.7 trillion now. Average credit card debt for somebody who carried a balance was $400 to $500 a month. Now it's $7,000 a month. Wow. I just went through this whole list of things and I said, okay, so if we're blessing Israel, I mean, we fought wars for Israel. That's another thing that came up that Huckabee denies. I mean,
totally got bombed. Tucker so took him to the cleaners on that issue.
Yeah, I mean, just read the clean break memo. I've read the clean break memo 15, 20 times. I mean, it is clear these are American, mostly Jews, writing to Benjamin Netanyahu. They're not writing to our government about how this works. So where are the blessings? If those who bless Israel are blessed, where are our blessings? I mean, is Minneapolis a blessing? Is California a blessing? Is Austin, Texas a blessing? I mean, I like Austin, Texas, but it could use some help. Is Camden, New Jersey a blessing?
Cleveland's a blessing. Cleveland's a blessing.
I mean, it's like, what are we even talking about here? I mean, it's like,
Pete knows my love. Pete knows my love for Cleveland. So
Yeah, burn on, Big River, burn on.
All right.
hey, I actually like Ohio. All right, there's a special place in my heart for Ohio. But you know, you want to bring this up, and you know, Ted Cruz brings it up. This Huckabee brings it up. Where are they? What are our blessings? Another thing, 1973. Roe v. Wade. How many abortions do we have? 60 million? Something like that? I mean, come on. Come on. You don't have to you don't have to believe, you know, you don't even have to believe abortion is killing a human to understand. Just take it from a practical standpoint.
No. In fact, what Tucker's more important point is that if you do believe, right? He wasn't even making the case of anti-abortion. He was saying, you have already stated your view on anti-abortion, and how is this consistent, right? That sort of thing. So you don't have to be pro-choice or pro-life to understand what Tucker's point was to Huckabee, because Huckabee had already taken his stance. He also destroyed him when he said, do opinions of the populace matter? And Huckabee said everything. And then he said, well, 84% don't support a conflict with Iran, you know, or something like that. It was one of the big ones. And then he said, well, we don't use opinion polls to decide foreign policy. And I'm going, well, you just shot yourself in the foot on that one. So I just still don't understand Huckabee thinking he could get away. It's like, I wouldn't do a debate with Jon Stewart either. Right. He would whip you. He would slice and dice you. He would turn you into a quivering mass just because of his skill. Forget about the arguments, his skill alone.
Does it make you wonder, though, in regards to Tucker? And I mean, Dave, you know, you've spent time with him. He interviewed you. But if he was that much of a threat, wouldn't somebody have done something potentially at this point? I mean, Charlie Kirk was a threat.
Maybe they're desperate. Maybe we've got to find a way. Maybe it was a kind of a ditch effort to try to humiliate him once and for all.
But Charlie Kirk was a threat to somebody.
Certainly.
Well, Huckabee, I think, really is just hubris, and I think that if he declined the interview, that would look bad. I think he would think it would look bad. I've had this theory for a while now, without any direct evidence, but with enough circumstantial evidence that I think is true. Is I think that there's a certain segment of WASP elite that are sick and tired of not having their country, and that they're fighting back. And I think that Tucker's a part of them. I think Colonel McGregor's a part of them. Some of the things that Colonel McGregor says when he talks about Ukraine. You know, there's
he's Mearsheimer level, right? Mearsheimer level, right?
Yeah, I think that there's a certain segment of the WASP elite. I know a lot of them personally. A lot of my friends who have, are not just nobodies, but have considerable means. They're sick and tired of it, and they want their country back. And they're sick. They're sick of this little strip of land in the Middle East controlling. I mean, the question of the time to me is to separate whether I can talk to somebody and judge whether they know what's going on, or even if they're like controlled opposition, is, does Israel control the United States, or does the United States control Israel? Because if you tell me the United States controls Israel, one, I either think you're ignorant, or two, I think you're working for them. You know, one of the biggest podcasts in the world is No Agenda. And after what I've heard on that show over the last year, I mean, I'm trying to get people to run away from that. Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. I mean, just this past Sunday's episode, they were completely excusing. They were saying, "Oh, there were no underage girls with Epstein." Epstein mentions it in the freaking that I provide children.
Like Michael Tracy. Michael Tracy has been out there denying the undeniable.
And people are like, and you have the Michael Tracy's.
Why do they think that works? I'm baffled by that, because it seems to me that conceding something would give you enhance credibility, right? Conceding the obvious allows you to, if Huckabee had said, yeah, this is a problem and blah, 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 there's times he could have backed away from a rigorous stance. And again, I didn't even know until recently that Huckabee was pro-Israel. This was news to me. And in part because as Mike will tell you, I had tried to stay agnostic on the Israel-Palestine conflict, in part because after 9/11, I tried to understand the Middle East by reading lots of books. I concluded not only do I not understand the Middle East, but I don't think anybody does. so I said, this is a futile effort here. This is millennia of tribal warfare that's never going to make sense to me. And
but it's really not. It's 80 years. It's 100 years of tribal warfare.
Well, that's part of what I'm learning. And then again, if I hadn't gotten caught in the crossfire and gotten somewhat irritated, but that was actually foreshadowed, was teed up by the fact that I was talking to an intelligence officer who said, you're trying to understand the world, but you're refusing to understand Israel-Palestine or Israel. And you're never going to succeed. And so he gave me some reading material, which started with Mearsheimer Waltz, the Israel lobby. You can't read the Israel lobby without coming out scarred. I mean, they just eviscerate the lobby. And I could still say somewhat agnostic, but then they acted like assholes. Right? Then they pissed me off, and I go, okay. And what bothers me is that prior to October 7th, you could criticize Epstein. You could say it was Mossad. There's all sorts of things you could say. You could criticize Israel, and you weren't eviscerated. And then October 7th, the rules just seemed to change, and it seemed to be anything you say, like our conversation today, makes you an enemy of Israel. And I go, I criticize the United States all the time, and I don't think they're sending the FBI and the CIA after me. I think that I'm still going to be okay. But somehow Israel, October 7th, they not only did it cause them to go on a whole nother plane of genocide, but they also, their propaganda campaign kicked it up to a whole nother level. And those montages of pro-Israel leaders talking about all the things they're going to do to you if you don't support Israel, and they're horrifying montages, right? They're beyond imagination. When you put them all together, they say, look, we've got 50,000 lawyers waiting to sue you and things like that. It's like, you got to be kidding me. You just said that? Really?
Well, they want to say they're defenders of the West, and then they automatically default to threatening you for exercising Western values, like free speech or anything. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, the propaganda doesn't work anymore. And, the whole October 7th thing to me is, and, I like Ron Unz a lot. I've talked to him, and, I've interviewed him, and I read his blog and everything, but he doesn't believe that there was like anything to the fact that there was like a stand down order or something.
Oh, there had to have been a stand down order. There had to be.
Look, that fence is part of a larger security system, and it's part of a larger security system that they sell to other countries.
Right.
So it's like, either you've been selling things that don't work, which, oh my God, that sounds so stereotypical, I apologize, or you stood down and you allowed it to happen.
Well, and you can actually make the stand down order based on exclusively Israeli sources too. That's the funny thing. So I wrote about it and left it on the cutting room floor because I just didn't want to end up. I decided I didn't want to be, Nick Fuentes 2.0. And the problem is just using exclusively Israeli sources. They were told repeatedly by all sorts of sources something disastrous was about to happen, and the people who were bringing this information kept getting told to shut up and shut up and mind your own business. And then they showed. And then there's this notion that somehow you could drop in 800 Hamas into Israel, and that somehow Israel would fail to clean them up in about 10 minutes. Is not imaginable, because one of the things I have great respect for is Israel's ability to defend itself. And I do not believe you build walls to keep people from escaping, not to keep people out. It keeps people in once they get in. And I would have thought that that those Hamas guys would be, chopped hamburger within 10 minutes. And
well, one of the
not
things
8 hours,
Huckabee,
not 8 hours.
yeah. Huckabee bragged about the fact that, they can pinpoint this, they can pinpoint that, they can pinpoint this. Okay, then what happened? What happened on October 7th?
Yeah, I know.
You can, we can, there are all these tunnels and we know where they are in the tunnels. Okay, then what happened on October 7th?
Right.
Yeah, the whole, another thing that, I mean, I would, if I had access to the military, like military channels, I would clip that part where he said that the IDF is a more moral army than the American army. That was egregious, and I'm glad that Tucker called him on it. But I mean, I'm sorry, the IDF would. I'm trying to remember the T-shirt that they had where they clipped. I think they had killed a pregnant woman or something, and they had these 2-for-1 T-shirts that the IDF had made, or something like that. And then you have the hearing coming out of Huckabee's mouth what I've been hearing, this propaganda, what they call Hasbara, there for over a decade of, well, human shield, human shield, human shield, human shield. Hamas does this. Oh, they gather everybody into this, do this. Oh, you killed the pregnant woman. The fetus had already undergone Hamas training. Oh, you killed the kid. You bombed the hospital. Well, Hamas was hiding under the hospital. You bombed the church. Oh, well, Hamas was hiding under the church. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm not buying this bullshit anymore. You can't tell me that. They dropped the bill when they were doing Lebanon a year and a half ago. I mean, they were dropping 2-ton bombs on apartment buildings and saying, "Oh, because there was there was a terrorist leader underneath it." It's like, right. Did you get the terrorist leader? Yeah, we got him. Okay, prove it. Well, we dropped the building. Oh, look, I'm sorry. You cannot do this anymore. You can't. We don't look. World War II was supposed to be the end of this. Oh, there was this evil regime in Germany, and they were doing all these bad things, and we had to do bad things back, like Dresden. We had to drop a bomb on the most Catholic city. We had to drop an atomic bomb on the most Catholic city in Japan. Oh, we did. I mean, we're not. I thought that was supposed to stop. You can't.
It would be nice.
You can't.
It would be nice if it stopped.
But who's doing this other than them? No one's doing. I mean,
we did it. We did it in Iraq for 20 years. So,
Yeah, I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people who were in Iraq. The rules of engagement in Iraq were insanely strict. I mean, I know in Afghanistan that you couldn't raise your rifle unless someone raised something at you.
I don't know the details of what went on in Iraq. I just know that we shouldn't have been there.
Oh, of course not. I mean, Saddam Hussein was writing a friggin' romance novel at the time that they invaded or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, come on. It's like they talk about, the other thing that Huckabee talked about, you mentioned this earlier, because you don't know any Jews. I don't know any Jews personally who want Eretz Israel, from the river to the sea, from the Euphrates to the Nile. But, Huckabee saying it would be perfectly fine if they wanted to do that. I mean, that's when the cat's out of the bag, man. You're not there to advocate for another country to have wars of conquest. You invoke international law while saying it's okay for them to violate international law. I think international law is bullshit, but you're the one saying, oh, Israel has a right to exist because international law this, international law that. Taking land and conquest since World War II is against international law. And yet he's there as a representative of the United States saying that it's okay for them to do. we don't even have anybody who thinks that this is a country anymore. It's just, I mean, we're the big, we're basically suffering. You know how they say that Israel is an apartheid state? Apartheid historically is like a small section of the population that controls the larger section of the population, like in South Africa. Apartheid. We're an apartheid state.
Right.
We're controlled by like, what, 2,000 people, maybe? It's absolutely insane. We do not have a friggin' country.
I'm listening to the audiobook of Jonathan Turley's latest book. So I listen to, I do everything with audiobook now just because it's dead time, so it's useful. The Indispensable writes a great book. It's a battle for free speech, and he talks about the various moments in history where the battle was being fought. And this idea that we've always had it and that it's always just matter of fact there is just false. We've been brawling the whole way. And he really focuses on the Supreme Court, and I think it was Oliver Wendell Holmes said you can't shout fire in a loud crowded theater, and he said that was one of the most unfortunate statements made by a justice because it gets abused so often to justify suppressing free speech. Now his latest book is Rage Against the Republic, and he is making actually a pretty sound case as to why a pure democracy tends to self-destruct, and why the republic model, which a lot of people say, why not just vote, period. And how history shows that the democracy becomes the tyranny of the majority so quickly that they become the oppressors. And that the republic is really designed to put in some checks and balances in between the voters. And it's making sense to me. You can also tell that, I'm not done yet, but you can tell that both books, Turley's saying that he's shitting in his pants and that he's really worried about where we're headed. And on the other hand, I can point to the other side. Both parties are great, both sides of the political aisle. Not that that's relevant, but they both seem to be making the same mistakes now to me. It seems as though that's why I'm a huge fan now of the Tucker Young Turk alliance, because they're crossing the aisle and sharing sort of a common holy shit. And one of the recurring messages of the Young Turks is they are getting us to fight each other. And that's not what we should be doing. We have a lot in common. And when Tucker brought Anna Kasparian on, and she was very reluctant to go on, and then what they found over the 2 hours, and I give Tucker credit for making sure she discovered this, that they have way more in common than not in common. And then Cenk came on very comfortably after that, knowing that it was not hostile territory. And every time the Young Turks go on, they always say there's things about that Tucker says we don't agree with, but then they spend the next half hour agreeing with Tucker. So it's an interesting alliance.
Common enemies do that.
Right.
Once you realize that you have a common enemy. Yeah, you were talking about democracy. Have you ever read Demon and Democracy by Legutko, Rizar Legutko? It's that's a book that, like, I stopped being a libertarian when I read that book. I was like, all right, well, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's democracy, republic, or communism. It's all going to descend into a managerial oligarchy. So it's like,
who is it? Mark Andreessen did a couple of podcasts where he really emphasized the shit out of that. I don't think this was the book he referred to. I've been, by the way, searching Amazon nonstop.
Managerial Revolution by Burnham.
I don't know.
He's posted that one before. He's posted that. He's posted the Machiavellians before by Burnham. Here's a question I got for you, Dave, because I know you're a finance guy, and I know you're like Mises. You're Mises adjacent at least.
Yeah.
Why is Mike Huckabee's daughter forcing the Arkansas state pension to fund and buy $50 million of Israel's government's bonds when their
Well, that's a
credit rating is
rhetorical
completely
question,
collapsing?
right? That's a rhetorical question.
I didn't even see. I didn't even see that.
That's like asking me why Gavin Newsom does something. You know, there's only one answer. I tried to ask why we were going against on Twitter. I asked, someone tell me why we're going against Iran, and I said, skip the obvious answer. Are there more subtle answers than that? And the answer was no. There are not more subtle answers.
What's interesting is people bring up the death to America thing. I heard somebody recently talking about it, somebody who spent a lot of time in like Iran, say death to is sort of like when we say fuck. Like, oh, fuck right. Israel, fuck this, fuck that. And that's basically right. That they say. It's not like they want, I mean, they don't like our government. How could anybody we don't like our government? You know? So it's like, I mean, every Iranian I've ever known, I've never had a problem with any of them. I mean, sure, you're going to find bad apples, but I mean, these are people just like us. It's our friggin' governments that are the problem. And really, our governments would not have a problem if Israel didn't have a problem with Iran. I mean,
so it's like when Khrushchev said, we will bury you. People turn that into we will destroy you, when in fact he was just saying, no, we're going to outlast you. The other thing that I encourage people to do, and I started doing a couple days ago in response to someone who tweeted about how bad it is in Iran, I just go on YouTube and search streets of Iran, Tehran, yep. Streets of Tehran, and watch videos of street life in Tehran, and you'll swear you're in New York City.
There's no burqas.
There's no burqas.
I mean, if there's a burqa, it's a woman who wants to wear one.
There's tons of very Western looking garb, and the women are wearing Western garb, and there's McDonald's sort of things. It looks like an American city, except once in a while you see something which doesn't rule out an American city, but you get a sense of there's a little more Iran in there than most American cities have. But it's like searching the streets of Kiev or Kiev, however you pronounce it, or Moscow or whatever. You go, these are not goblins and ghouls that we're bombing here if we bomb them. These are very normal looking people. And I try to remind people also that things can change so quickly. We're so used to not having to worry what's in the store, and that we'll be able to, and we can go out on the street safely at night and things like that. And, I bet the Ukrainians out there are in pretty good shape, except for the ethnic Russians, 5 years ago. And all of a sudden the entire country's a wasteland. And by no means am I blaming Putin. I'm blaming NATO, but it was predictable. If you were a Cold Warrior and you knew better, you should have seen it coming. It was predictable if you understood the NATO, Russia dotted lines that they were trying to negotiate. But to the average Ukrainian, life was pretty normal right up until February 2022. And then all of a sudden, and even then it was still not weird. Putin wasn't beating the shit out of the Ukrainians.
Unfortunately, that was part of, if you're going to commit to troops, you have to sort of go all the way, or else you're going to get caught up. And, we know that Russia, considering the factories they have, the fact that Russians are, they're patriots. They're going to sign up to, to fight. I thought something that was really interesting was the first group that volunteered to go in were the Chechens. And that'll never that was mind blowing to me. I saw a video on VK. It was like March 1st of 2022. And I'm watching like these ethnic Russians getting attacked by Ukrainian forces, and all of a sudden you notice it volleys
So that
of
was
fire.
the Azov Battalion.
Yeah,
Probably.
see,
Yeah.
you notice volleys of fire going in the other direction, and the fire from this side ceases and runs, and ceases, and you see these soldiers come around the corner, and these ethnic Russians run up and hug them, and the guy turns, and you see the Chechen insignia there, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, that whole the first 6 months of that war was surreal because there was all this fake propaganda coming through our airwaves, fake bombs landing in train stations that were completely fabricated. You'd see explosions from 20 miles away, having no idea what blew up. And you see cars burning. You see cars burning. I go, cars burning is not a war.
And then you get
cars burning is Detroit.
You get U2 playing in the subway there.
Right. And so I kept saying to my wife, this is not a war. A war, look at Baghdad day one, right? That's a war. But then, so Putin moved like 150,000 troops in, which, by the way, a country the size of Ukraine, that is not an invading force. That is something altogether much smaller. They took 1 million into Finland in World War II, and it kind of fought to a draw. So they knew that they weren't going to take over Ukraine with 150,000. That was just to get Ukraine and NATO to back away, and that was their miscalculation. They thought they could, and they couldn't because NATO wanted to fight.
Why is it continuing though?
I think Europe's in the way. City of London. I think Putin and Trump could cut a deal overnight. They probably already have a deal. They probably could do it, but I don't think they have a deal that if you can't get any kind of sign off on Europe, I don't see that you can't cut a deal. But I don't think Trump cares where the dotted lines are. I think Trump doesn't even care if all of Ukraine became Russia. He wanted something quick. He wanted something that made him look like a hero. And Putin would have been happy with that too. And then Trump would have said, okay, in return, let's do bilateral trade agreements. You sell us this, you sell us that, we sell you this. That Putin would have won. Trump would have won. It would have been a big win. But Europe couldn't accept that. And you can't do it without Europe somehow either signing off or being completely neutered. And I don't think either was completely doable. That's my guess. What do you think, Peter?
You're muted, Pete.
I think Putin is surrounded by hardliners that are pushing him to. Putin is not a hardliner. Everybody's like, "Oh, Putin is this guy." He's the moderate. You don't want the people who come next after him.
No question.
And I think that Putin is just like, well, I mean, this is our land. I mean, look. Say what you want about. I'm one of those people that when you ask me about the Spanish Civil War. Right. I start in 711 AD and I come forward. Okay. Because I can't tell that story without giving you, a millennia and a half of history of how it got to that point.
Right.
When he interviewed Putin, what did Putin do? He just went into the history. I mean, he considers that to be part of Russia, and it is part of Russia. It is Russian. The eastern part, more questionable. But that western part is Russian. There are parts that are Russian. And I think he is willing to, I don't know whether he actually believes like the whole Nazi thing. He talks about denazification. I think when he talks about denazification, I think what he means is that, after World War II, if you called yourself a Nazi, you did it in the shadows or you did it in a basement somewhere with two other people. And, I said after Trump got elected, if Trump was going to destroy his enemies 2 weeks into his presidency, it would be illegal to call yourself a Democrat. That's the only way you win what he has to do in this country.
Well, I think the Nazis in Ukraine were a legitimate, albeit small group. And I think the best analogy I have is maybe like a Mexican drug cartel. So not big in number, but pretty influential and pretty ruthless. So the Azov
Why are they training
Battalion,
in Israel? Why do they train in Israel?
Don't go there. Don't go there. I think. Well, the other thing is you got Lindsey Graham, who I'm sure you would love to give a big hug. Lindsey Graham and John McCain. rallying the Azov guys in 2015, right? So the Azov guys were a serious group. They did celebrate, Stepan Bandar's birthday and shit like that. So they were legit Nazis. Now, the mistake that I made was I thought, well, they're by definition bad, but they fought the Soviet Union in World War II, and that's an interesting subplot that I had accepted. Social studies level history and said, well, therefore they must be bad because they fought our ally. Soviet Union was not our ally in World War II. The Soviet Union was a bunch of badasses, and the only thing we shared with the Soviet Union was the willingness to fight Germany together, not together, but both fight Germany, and the whole Harry Hopkins, the whole Soviet spy shit going on. So
Lend-Lease
was a disaster. We gave so much stuff to the Soviets, and
we were manufacturing 762 by 54R in our factories. That's not a round we've ever used. So we're only manufacturing that round for one reason, for the Mosin Nagant, and we're producing some of those here too.
And we gave the Soviets 10 to 20 times what we gave Britain. 10 to 20 times. Now, what I still like to know, Michael, in case you're still in touch with her, is I'd like to know why Diana West turned on me. And in fact, I thought we were comrades in arms.
I met her through you. It's funny. It's how I got introduced to her was through you.
Right. I should not go there. You shouldn't talk about people. I forgive her for turning on me, but it hurt a little bit. But in any event, the whole World War II story is a mess, which got me into the brawl with the JDL and whatever else.
Let me chime in here because I want to ask you guys. We were talking a little bit offline, but in top level with regard, because Dave, you said the City of London. What are your thoughts on if that plays a part on it at all? Pete, you want to start, Dave?
I just don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a huge part. I mean, it's a banking cartel, but it's more than that. I mean, dirty money gets sent through there. Obviously Rothschild. Obviously, it is an autonomous zone. The King of England has to ask for permission before he can enter.
You have a book that covers it. I asked Luongo that. He didn't have a single source. Sort of like when I talked to this Intel guy, he said, read the Israel lobby, right? So there was sort of the definitive starting point. Do you have a definitive starting point to read about London? Because I just don't understand it.
There's not a book out there. There's an article on UN's Review that was put out by a guy that's very detailed on the history, like right from the founding. And I mean, we're talking about 1,000 years ago. So
right.
I can link that when we're
that would be great. That would be great.
We're doing. But the it is the center of banking. It is the Rothschild banking center. So their tentacles go out everywhere. But the
does it
idea
still though?
that
does it still?
I'm sorry?
Does it still?
Yes. I mean, I think that I honestly believe that Jerome Powell has done a lot to destroy the power of the City of London and the euro and the WEF and a lot of these globalist orgs over the past 5-6 years and everything. But of course, they're still going to be able to. I mean, Les Wexner started mentioning the Rothschilds while he was testifying the other day, and his lawyer, caught on a hot mic, leans over to him and goes, "I'll fucking kill you if you answer a question with more than 5 words." Now,
but that struck me as metaphorical. That struck me as just a lawyer telling him, please stop elaborating when you don't have to, right?
But
that got played up a lot, that got overplayed in my opinion.
But it was only at the point
funny
when he started mentioning the Rothschilds.
Well, that could be. Let me ask you this question. And I've been talking about this, and I don't know anyone else who has, and if they have, someone link me to them. But Trump it was said that he would get some some bitch of his to lower the rates and be his puppy dog when he replaced Powell. And then he picked Kevin Warsh. Now there's two issues with Kevin Warsh, one of which I'm sure you know, and that is that his uncle is head of some national whatever Jewish society and very, very strongly Zionist. And so you can make the argument, this is not where I want to go with this, but you can make the argument that therefore Israel got their guy in there, that sort of thing. But that's not what interests me. What interests me is Warsh has been hypercritical of loose monetary policy for as long as I can remember. And the way I like to phrase it is, if you look at every Fed governor, every Fed chair we've put in, they seem to be put in for a reason. So you start with Volcker, you go, he slayed inflation. He seemed to be the right guy for that job. And then we put in Greenspan, we were starting a sort of Reaganomics. So he professed, forget about what he did. He professed to be a free market guy, sort of a Ayn Rand type. And then of course his ego got the best of him. He fucked up completely, in my opinion. But then we put in Bernanke in 2005, and it was just coincidentally 2 years before the Great Financial Crisis. We put a guy who is supposedly an expert on the Great Depression, who, in my opinion, is either a pathological liar or he doesn't understand the Depression. And I got to go with pathological liar because he's got to understand it, but he never blames the 1920s. He never talks about the 1920s, which is absurd. So then we put in Yellen, who's just a sock puppet to continue what Bernanke did. And then we put in Powell, who looks like he was put in there to sort of tap the brakes, right? Raise rates, do a little QT, maybe more than he got to do, but to sort of try to get the car back on the road. And instead of picking some bitch like Lyle Brainerd, who would totally print her ass off, best I can tell, and do anything he says, he picks Kevin Warsh. Now, my theory on this is that Kevin Warsh is the perfect guy if you're going to usher the system into a final collapse reset of the Jenga tower.
Yeah, I come at this, the Warsh pick a little more. I start from conspiracy and work out. Okay.
So do I.
I honestly believe that there are Jewish factions that are warring right now, and that I think, like, I don't trust any of the people in the administration from Florida.
Okay.
Bondi, Patel, Susie Wiles, Randy Fox, none of these people. I believe they're all
they're all pretty bad, actually. Yeah, now as you mention it, they all came from Florida. I knew Bondi did. I didn't know Patel did.
So I
didn't know where they came from.
I see them all as DeSantis loyalists. And I think that their job is to come in there, do such a poor job to make sure that nobody from this administration, especially J.D. Vance, doesn't get elected in 2028. Same reason why Kristi Noem, I believe, was obstructing Homan for so many months, is because she wants to run for president in 2028. And the worse that this administration looks, the better chance she has to run. So these are and I've actually heard this from a pretty good source that I trust. The whole thing about, I'm sure, have you heard about Susie Wiles? Basically, if you want access to the president, you have to donate. I think it's 200,000. It's 40,000 to get access to the president once, $200,000 a year to her.
I haven't heard this at all. I haven't heard this at all.
Yeah, this started coming out. Daryl Cooper told me about this we were podcasting together. He's also the one who told me about what's her name, Noem. Who
I hadn't heard anything about Noem. Anything about Noem. By the way, Daryl Cooper even turned on me a little bit this summer.
Did he?
Just a little. I think Daryl Cooper basically said I didn't say this or something. It was pretty minor, but
he doesn't hate anybody, so
he doesn't hate. No, I'm a big Daryl Cooper fan. I'm absolutely a big Daryl Cooper fan. So what do you think of Warsh? What's Warsh then?
So I think he's part of one of those factions that is genuinely wants to keep this going. I think there's a faction that wants this all to fall to pieces, that is doing as much as they can to obstruct the administration, to bring in either, I don't think they care. My historical study is that these people don't care whether a Democrat or Republican is president. They're in charge no matter what. But they do prefer when it looks like something could be coming apart. One faction looks like they want to initiate that and accelerate it. Another faction wants to save it, but they want their people to be in charge. I don't think that they can trust, private equity. They feel like they can trust private equity Powell. I think they want their guy in there who can, who they can control, who I think isn't he, his father-in-law is Ronald Lauder, one of the guy who wants Greenland because he,
no, the father-in-law, Lauder's Warsh's uncle, father-in-law, one of those two.
Yeah, father-in-law. Yeah, the guy who wants Greenland because he owns this one piece in Greenland that looks like nothing, but it's like, I wonder what's on there. Wonder why he owns this one little piece of Greenland. Just like Paul Singer wanted to invade Venezuela because somebody owned. Well,
Singer, I think, was in the middle of the whole Venezuelan or was it Argentinian bond battle from about half a dozen years ago, where he was trying to force them into either forking up or defaulting, and the default would lead to all sorts of chaos. And so he was trying to get someone to write a check to him. I don't remember how that finished, but I got the feeling Singer won that, but I could be wrong on that.
I think he's the son-in-law, by the way, too.
Yeah.
What's that?
Warsh is the son-in-law.
For Lauder.
Son-in-law.
The whole Malay thing too is I'm with Hapa. I'm with Hans. I saw through Malay right away. The guy is. I just looked who surrounded him, and his first act as president was to go to Brooklyn, to go to Chabad headquarters and visit Schneerson's grave, and then he sends gold off to the city of London. It's like, oh, but he did it for this reason. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right. The guy's not an ANCAP. I mean, he may be an ANCAP, but he's obviously has handlers of some sort. But yeah, I just think that Lauder has brought the.
So you think Warsh is to keep the system going? Because my model is exactly the opposite. My model is that Warsh is the guy to bring it down.
I mean, that is, I wouldn't rule that out either. I mean, a lot of times when you see people who have a history of operating a certain way and they're brought into power, a position of power, it actually goes in the exact opposite. Greenspan, you mentioned Greenspan and Ayn Rand. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you mentioned Greenspan and Ayn Rand. I mean, Greenspan was part of her inner circle. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how close they were. But yeah, the Supreme Court. I mean, what did the Supreme Court just do on tariffs? And how is Lutnick tied to those tariffs? You saw that. I'm sure you saw that, right?
Yeah, he makes a lot of money. He makes a lot of money. What a shock. Lutnick really is entertaining this week. I must admit that the Lutnick stories are coming on full force. It's a real gale force wind against Lutnick.
What about Bannon? What are your thoughts on Bannon?
Oh, fascinating question. Go ahead. Take this one, Peter, because I don't have a clue.
Look, I know people who know Bannon. I've talked to somebody who knows Bannon and who spent some time around Bannon. Either he is in hyper cleanup mode, trying to redo his, trying to fix his reputation, as it seems he was trying to help Jeffrey Epstein do, or he is scared because people have told me behind the scenes he is very, very much on our side of, Israel. We need to decouple from Israel, this and that. But it doesn't seem like it was like that when he was, when you look at those communications with Epstein and some of those emails, some of the communications. Why is he doing an interview with Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, that's the last. I mean, I pretty much said I'll talk to anybody on my podcast. Right. I'd probably draw the line at Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, back then though, back when he did it, would you have? I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
He had already been. He had already
convicted.
done well. then jail time, quote unquote. Oh, Ryan Dawson has this theory that the reason why you're not seeing any arrests in the United States, you're seeing it overseas tied to Epstein, is because in the 2008 trial that there was blanket immunity were given to a whole bunch of people.
Okay.
Which is why you might not seeing, like I heard someone said that they've heard that Larry Summers will be the first person, and I'm like, well, maybe, but I think a lot of people may have already gotten immunity in this. So this all comes back to Epstein. I mean, the guy, if you properly understand, if you read those emails and you read the language, you see, I mean, past the Jewish supremacy and thinking we're cattle, this guy had way more influence than anyone, I think, is really willing to give him credit at this point.
It shocked me. It shocked me how much influence he had. I thought his influence was, I thought he was more of a pawn than he is. He almost seemed to be above the government, not part of it.
Let me throw something else at you guys in relation to that. I don't think I've said this to you, Dave. Where are his tax returns?
What country is he a citizen?
But he was at one point he was a teacher in New York, wasn't he? At some type of prep
school.
Doesn't
mean you're. So you'd have to pay taxes.
Well, you got an automatic W-2. When was the last tax return filed from him? Was he immune from filing? He was worth all this money.
I don't know.
Have you heard that before? I mean, all these documents come out. Shouldn't that be easy to figure out?
No,
Dave.
No,
Dave. Here's a rhetorical one for you. If I owned the most expensive townhouse in New York City and I sold it to you for $1, how fast do you think the IRS would be crawling up our asses?
Pretty quickly. I've read some stuff that claim that $10 price tag is a space filler for the document. They just put it in, and then eventually, who knows what. One thing for sure is that whole townhouse, that whole transfer of the townhouse through I can't even remember the sequence, through Epstein, through some Comet Trust, Comet. Jesus, Comet. How did it get that name? Through Lutnick, through someone else. Who am I missing? There's someone intermediary there. It shows that Lutnick was just dirty as shit. Just that townhouse story alone shows how dirty Lutnick is.
Well, just for schizo's sake, I love that the addresses were 9 and 11.
Is that right? Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't even thought of that.
So we're moving on from the tax return. So you guys didn't even have interest in my tax return question.
Well, I don't. I
just find that
I assume these people don't pay taxes.
But would he have filed though? Was he immune from filing?
They couldn't get Trumps. They wanted Trumps. They never got Trumps. Really. What
about Ghislaine Maxwell? Did she ever file? I mean, and I know you guys don't know the answer, but this is something that would tell a lot, right? I mean, they made all this money.
You're assuming someone wants to get that, right?
I assume with someone with power of attorney, if taxes were filed, someone with power of attorney did it. They never had anything to do with it. And, you can have possibly attorney will go, oh, no, it's attorney-client proof. I mean, look, they don't want – it's obvious that the people in power do not want this investigated. It's obvious. I mean, there's not, you say this all the time, Michael. I mean, this isn't everybody thinks this is a superhero movie. It's not. No one's coming to save us. No one, I mean, we're on our own. We're on our own.
Brett Weinstein said it well, I thought. Brett Weinstein said that the release of the Epstein papers to him appears as though it's enough to make us think we got the answer key, without actually giving us anything that was actionable, so that to try to put it all to rest. And I think that's correct. Now, here's where it seems to potentially be backfiring. Why I have a modicum that this is going to keep going out of control is that crowdsourcing connectivities with 8 billion people on the planet is a pretty awesome force, right? And so as a consequence, they're able to piece together emails where it's been redacted here, but they can find the earlier email that wasn't redacted, so they can see who the redacted piece is in the nasty email. And so I think slowly but surely, we're not even slowly but surely, very rapidly, we're crowdsourcing connectivities that nothing will happen. We know nothing will happen to these guys, but they'll look really bad. And maybe some of these guys, like what's that guy who you just said got arrested? I can never remember the name, but the Keir Starmer.
Mandelson.
Yeah.
Peter Mandelson. Yeah.
And Keir Starmer, and it takes you into the goddamn trafficking, pedophilia, Jimmy Seville. The Jesus Christ, does that could get messy fast?
And Lutnick might lose his spot. Peter Attia. Bannon seems to be. I mean, he's not going away, so maybe he's able to weather this.
Lutnick is. I mean, Lutnick is Anthony Blinken. Remember during Biden's presidency, whenever he spoke publicly, Anthony Blinken was over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Just look back at pictures. That's 75.
Lutnick's always in the same place. You're right.
Yeah.
His location in the photos is identical to Blinken. He's always a background. He's a backdrop. He's a backdrop.
That's why I say we do not have a government. We do not have those people standing in the background. Those are the people in charge.
Tim Dillon said it well. He says, I have trouble picturing someone who has a 12th grade education telling the many, many billionaires how they're going to run the country. It's just not going to happen.
Have you ever looked into the Wexner Foundation?
I have, but I'm not sure at what level you're referring to.
Like
not in detail.
Ryan Dawson has looked at the history of it. It was started by Haganah.
I don't know Haganah. I don't know.
Haganah was one of the Zionist terrorist organizations. Haganah, Stern Gang, Irgun.
That's right. Okay, now I know.
They all became the IDF. Yeah. It's been around for a century.
Well, then there's that funny story where the foundation of Israel.
We're coming back around. We're coming back around to this.
I know. I should not do this.
Have we talked about all this enough in this conversation? You want to talk about?
You already told Michael.
You want to talk about how they got? You want to talk about how they got nukes?
Coming back around to this.
How no U.S. presidents.
Let's go light. Let's talk about pedophilia and satanic cults.
Why don't we come back to the city of London? Why don't we come back to the city of London? Why don't we come back to the city of London?
It's the same topic, Michael.
Here's the thing. Okay, so here's something I wanted to bring up. I made a note to myself to bring this up. So Somalis, small little ethnic group that seems to be punching above its weight. I don't believe that they set this
in Minnesota, right?
Well, and other cities. There's other cities where they are. I think Maine. Is it Maine or Vermont where there's there's another community that's doing the same exact thing there.
Columbus, Ohio, I think too.
Yeah. So you have this, and I don't think they set it up. I think it was set up by somebody. I don't think they get all the money. I think it's being funneled somewhere. Like 80% of it's being funneled somewhere else. You have
80. You're an optimist. I was going to say 98.
Well, I mean, they have to be able to buy those Ferraris, but
that's 98%. The 98% is going elsewhere. Those Ferraris are dirt cheap compared to the quantity of money we're talking about, right?
So you have another, you have another, you look at like CARE, you look at like Hispanic. You have these little organized, basically unassimilable groups that come in here and they feed off of the people who are here, the heritage Americans, the people whose families have been here for my family's not heritage American, but both sides have been here for over 100 years. They feed off of, they're basically, we know who pays the taxes in this country.
Were those Somalis brought in over during the Biden administration, by the way? Was that a heavy Somalia-based influx? Do you know?
I don't think it was. I don't think that was during Biden. I think that was before. I think that was. I think that was in the early 2010s, in the late 2000s, which just goes to show bomb a country. If the United States decides to bomb a country, then that a good portion of the population is going to end up here. I never understood why they were part of the axis of evil. Except if
therefore we should bomb Sweden to get the Swedish girls here.
But you know.
And the Persian girls.
This should be a warning. This should be a warning that if you import a tight-knit ethnic group that has self-interest, that things like this can happen. Except there's one we're not allowed to talk about because they punch above their weight when it comes to wealth, influence, Hollywood, the news, banking, City of London.
I'm stumped.
Yeah, I wonder who that would be. But I mean, you know, this goes back to the Tucker interview. Are we allowed to have our own country? Are we, you know, are Americans allowed to have their own country? And if you have people who are here who are loyal to some,
is it much worse now?
Than when?
Or are we just than say 30 years ago? Is it much worse now?
Oh, I think the influence
through a different lens. Are we seeing it through a different lens?
Well, the influence is going to get exponentially. It will grow exponentially over time
with the size of the government. With the size of the government.
Exactly. Right. I mean, and you have a bunch of people who, you know, bought houses in the 1980s and think that they're financial geniuses because they held them, and you know, inflating the monetary supply, you know, just exploded the prices and everything. But you know, it seems to me that if there's a country that has a right to exist and they have a right to do whatever it takes to make sure that it keeps existing, every other country should have that same right. And I don't know, man. I look around and I see a lot of people in this country, and I'm not only talking about the obvious ones like the Somalis and the Haitians and everyone else, but I mean, when it comes down to it, Stalin understood what diaspora had, this idea that diaspora groups were a danger to him, because you had a group of Germans who were in Russia, in the Soviet Union, and they had a country that they had a government.
Is that who Stalin killed? I think Stalin's fatalities were much more random, right? They weren't targeted.
No.
They were targeted?
Professor J. Otto Pohl wrote a really good book about this. I think it's called Years of... I can't remember the name of it, but I have it right over there. But he targeted the Germans, the Poles, Lithuanians. He targeted diaspora groups.
What's the author's name?
J. Otto Pohl, Pohl.
I've been Googling Amazon through your talk just because the Years of Great Silence.
Yes, Years of Great Silence. And what he talks about in there is that Stalin saw diaspora groups as really dangerous to his power. And like, he didn't, you know, people talk about, oh, Stalin purged the Jews in the late 1930s. Actually, he didn't, because he didn't see them as a threat. He purged his leadership class. He purged like a lot of his generals. He purged a lot of the politicians.
40 million. He purged 40 million, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, and then he tried to blame like the Katyn Forest on Germany, when it turns out that, you know, the
dog ate my homework.
Yeah. And you don't see Stalin start to say, okay, well, maybe Jews shouldn't have as much power as they do in this country until the birth of Israel.
Oh, we're coming back to this. We're back to Israel again.
Yeah,
I don't think Peter can stay off, but I think Kirk's camping out up there now.
Dude, Tucker. Tucker had look. You remember? I mean, this had to be one of the greatest Tucker episodes of all time, and probably
it was a great Tucker episode.
The Thomas Massey episode.
I think the Dave Collum episode.
I was going to say Dave Collum.
That one was brilliant. But when Thomas Massey says basically everyone has a AIPAC babysitter except me and like 5 other people. I mean, come on. I mean, he's not.
Oh, that was an amazing episode when he said all but 2. I think he said.
Yeah.
By the way, the most timely Tucker interview was Charlie Kirk. Got it right under the wire.
Have you been, Jimmy? I don't watch Candace Owens because there's something annoying about her, but I've been following Jimmy
I
Dore.
watch Candace Owens and I watch Jimmy Dore. I watch them both.
It is the most schizo stuff that is coming out about her. Like she hadn't done a tweet until 2 days before, like in 2 years until 2 days before Charlie got shot. Like she had retweeted some stuff and she had quote tweeted some stuff, but she never took the time to do an actual tweet for like 2 years. And then 2 days before Charlie gets shot, she starts posting Bible verses.
I think it's possible that Charlie knew he was toast. I mean, he talks about how he felt like he was. Well, her claim is at least that he said he was afraid for his life.
But these people probably on that level are to a certain extent are all fearful. I'm trying to look at the practical approach to this.
I've left up the toilet seat too many times, so I do understand the fear for your life story. But the Charlie Kirk story is clearly a big mess that's not just some crazy guy on the roof.
I still can't believe. I mean, I used to see him. I mean, I don't know if I told you this, Pete. I used to see him at the grocery store.
Yeah, you've told me, and he was like always alone.
I never saw him with anybody. I saw him pushing a stroller at a coffee house in Scottsdale. I don't know, a couple of years ago with somebody, but I couldn't. I was so far away, I couldn't see, who he was with or any of that.
But you never see his kids' faces. You never. And where are they now? Erica Kirk.
Where's he buried?
Erica Kirk is so MK Ultra. If there was ever anyone that was MK Ultra, it's Erica Kirk.
Well, even that aside for a second, because you can debate that, but the reality of it is, in my view, she is so unlikable. She's just not likable.
Well, I think we're picking up the same vibes. I'm just attributing that to the fact that she can't fake it.
The whole being 17 years old in
Romania.
I've spent considerable time in Romania working in the past. And I've worked with orphans in Romania in the past, volunteering. The fact that you could be 17 and running, that just is not how that works. That's not how that system works there. Now, I was there before they joined the EU, so it may be different after the EU. It probably got a lot worse after the EU. When I say worse, I mean for bureaucracy-wise. But being 17 years old and working with orphans, that just tells me human trafficking. I mean, allegedly.
They got kicked out of Romania for that. So allegedly. Right. And I had long chats with Nick Bryan. He said Eastern Europe is just an absolutely grocery store for kids. And so it all fits together into a very nasty story, but her personality just has these traits that are just have MK Ultra written all over her face. She looks totally brainwashed to me.
And everything's performative with her.
That's right.
The way she talks,
all an act.
The way she,
That picture in front of the coffin.
Oh, that whole video is just like, wait, no.
Creepy.
What about her kid when driving by Turning Point and the child was 2 at the time?
Saying Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, yeah.
If I'd have called my dad by his first name, he would have smacked it.
Well, you also wouldn't
taste
have.
Out of my mouth.
No, you wouldn't have, though. 3-year-olds don't think of their dad but anything but dad, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have crossed their mind. So, and when she couldn't remember the year they got married, that was funny. That was a good one. So the question I can't get an answer to, and I've been watching like a hawk, and if someone has a video or something that answers this, send it to me. If you can't figure out my email, then your IQ is really low, because I'm at Cornell and I'm in chemistry and my email's on my website. But I would like to know if Charlie was in some way already captured when he entered into this world or not. Erica, I'm sure was. I just think she was. But Charlie, and I've listened to Candace so many times, waiting for her to give me some hint that there was something about Charlie that told her that Charlie, because he came out of nowhere too. He really just high school, doesn't go to college. Some guy spots his talent. How you show your talent in high school, I don't know. His story, his origin story is too fictional looking to me.
And they do recruit out of high school.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't know if they do that anymore, but when I was a kid, they had the I can't remember what the name of that is. My buddy talks about it all the time. I can't remember, but like in my high school, I graduated Catholic school in New York, and they're like the FBI would come there to every senior class and try to pick out kids and everything like that.
Well, Tyler Robinson got plucked out of first semester of college. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there is just way too much. You don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but when you see that none of this just adds up, and it always seems to point back towards a some kind of
conspiracy
plan, some kind. Yeah, I mean, it's just.
I'm happy to be a conspiracy theorist. I completely rebel against the idea that there's anything to be ashamed of.
Here's another story that I think is I've been thinking about. Jordan Peterson, man, that guy just disappeared.
I think you hit an expiration date. I think you reach a point where people have heard and have gotten the message, and you you've got a life expectancy in the fast lane. That's my gut feeling with Jordan. Although you can coming out of McGill and stuff, you can paint a darker picture if you want. But he also had personal troubles. I mean, for a guy who preached getting your shit together, he had enough of his own personal troubles. So could be that.
Well, Peter? He's also essentially a leftist.
I have to think about that.
They're not stable people. It wasn't like he was like, oh, I'm completely right wing, that's why I'm against having to use pronouns and stuff like that. No, he's just one of those left me kind of people, like the Weinstein, the intellectual dork web crowd. Yeah, right. They just, I mean, I don't know. I have a tendency to believe that leftists are, inherent.
I wouldn't have called him a leftist. I wouldn't have called him a leftist. I'm not sure what part of him gets him a leftist label.
Well, I think classical liberalism is leftist inherently.
You mean? Well, if we're talking the ultimate classical liberalism, like from a century ago, or 1960s liberalism.
I don't think most of these people who call themselves classical liberals anymore are beyond.
They're not the old school liberals, right?
Yeah, I think they're like Civil Rights Act.
I wouldn't think of Jordan Peterson as liberal. I'm not sure. I'm trying to replay the tapes in my head. I'm not thinking. Can you give me a hint, sort of a view that would tell me he's way left of center? Because he seems to be kind of a free speech. Let boys be boys. Don't pamper them. That doesn't. Okay, that's not leftist.
I don't know. Classical liberalism to me is leftism. Is right wing to me is historicism, anti-egalitarianism. I don't think that I don't know that Jordan Peterson is against like benefits and stuff. I mean, he's Canadian. I've never heard him speak out against.
Which, by the way, we've learned they can't even play hockey as well as they used to.
Well, I mean, I interviewed a Canadian the other day, and he's somebody who's spent time in jail for the things he said about how the country has changed. He went into the military, and he said he went into the military, and it was like a white country, like what we pictured Canada and Minnesota as when we were growing up. And he got out of the military, and he's like, "What the hell just happened here? We've been overrun by Indians and Chinese."
The
And
fact that you can get sent to prison in the various British Empire countries like Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, it's disturbing that civil liberties have been tossed under the bus as badly as they have, right? That came unexpectedly to me.
Well, the religion, I mean, the post-war religion is globalism. Is,
Right.
we're all equal, we're all one. If you want to be, you're a Brit, is, after 5 years of being there, you're an American. All you have to do is say this pledge and everything. It wasn't like I found my great grandfather's paperwork when he became a citizen. I mean, he had to renounce like his allegiance to the Austro-Hungarian Empire when he came here. I mean, they made him do that, and he never went back. He didn't send money back. He wasn't doing remittances back to mailing, snail mailing
the full
money
transition,
back to
the full
Eastern
transition,
Europe.
right?
Yeah, he moved. He stepped off the boat and went to Western Pennsylvania, went into a coal mine.
Right.
I mean, that's what people used to do. They didn't come here and collect, have patronage networks set up by political entities and non-government organizations that were just begging that were expecting you to be their political patron now, and to vote for them and to support them and to collect money and give them give them a huge kickback. No, it's more like, we're going to kick you back some money. All you have to do is fill out this paperwork. And it's a totally different country, and it's a totally different West. My friend Thomas says the West died at Stalingrad. As soon as the Soviet Union won, that's it. As soon as it was over, that we weren't going to have a West anymore. And then, as soon as the war is over, you have, the Frankfurt School writing with the, on commission from the American Jewish Committee, the authoritarian personality, basically saying, look, if we don't want people to be fascist anymore, we're going to have to destroy the family and destroy the churches.
Frankfurt School is also the origin of the Judith Butler, that crowd.
And they're working with the CIA.
And they also had influence on the Soviet Union. Trotsky, I think, came out of Frankfurt School, didn't he? Am I remembering that correctly? No?
No, Trotsky doesn't know.
Okay.
Frankfurt School was Adorno and those other,
okay,
people like that. But that book, Authoritarian Personality, I mean, basically shaped what was to come. It basically birthed the 60s, the counterculture revolution era. They said the way we stop people from becoming fascists in the future is we have to employ eros, which is porn and free love and all this. And people can say all they want about, oh, it's just a book and you have no proof. It's like, well, the proof is in the results, where we're at. And Kerry Bolton in one of his books just basically proves that like the whole 60s movement was top down, elite funded. And then if you look what's
weird scenes from
there you
from
go.
the Valley. Weird scenes from the Valley.
I mean, who was Jim Morrison's dad?
Yeah, right. CIA, right.
He was a rear admiral. I mean, the
deep
one
state.
Who
they were all
together,
deep state. They were all deep
put
state.
together the Gulf of Tonkin false flag.
And Jim Morrison and Frank Zappa ended up working for the Bank of International Settlements, I think, or the WEF, one of those two after he left the Laurel Canyon. The subplot I like. So for those that don't know, Weird Scenes at the Canyon is about the rise of the hippie movement and how all the famous musicians you think as being at the core of the new rock movement in the United States, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Jackson Browne, you can keep going on and on and on. They all come from deep state families, and not just, father was a colonel. We're talking deep state families. And so it's a very interesting book. Very interesting book.
Carly, who is Carly Simon's family?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Simon and Schuster.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Paul McCartney's wife, Linda Eastman. Linda Eastman? What's Eastman?
Eastman family. Kodak. Yeah. So these are wealthy. These are people coming from wealth and power.
Yeah.
Well, here's the subplot that's funny. My wife lived in Laurel Canyon from 77 to 79. And I asked her about it, but she could be oblivious enough to not know what was going on around her. I'm pretty sure she's not an evil person. I think she's less confident that I'm not an evil person. But she knew Joan Baez and people like that were banging around. But I think that was from a commune, not from Laurel Canyon. And in the canyon, there's the whole CIA headquarters at the top of the canyon and stuff. It's so strange. And Timothy Leary, CIA, Gloria Steinem, CIA. This is a strange world.
Go back a couple decades. Jack Parsons.
Right.
This is a Thelemite, someone who knew Aleister Crowley personally, hanging out with L. Ron Hubbard. I mean,
the guy who ran the game shows,
Chuck Barris. Chuck Barris.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
God, what a weird world.
I mean,
so I'm convinced that Hollywood as a messaging unit was completely and utterly taken over. So I think the Hollywood is from head to toe. So, yeah, it's insane when you have to listen to people like Roseanne Barr tell you the truth, right? And when I watch Mel Gibson, he looks nuts now, but I can't tell if that means I shouldn't believe him or if he was driven nuts. And I'm inclined to believe the latter because he didn't seem nuts when he first started trying to tell us about how bad off Hollywood was.
He's not in the files.
He's not in the Epstein files.
Mel Gibson's not in the Epstein files.
Right. Then you got the famous Cappy who got thrown off a bridge and run over by a car after talking about all the pedophiles in Hollywood. And you got Jack Nicholson was chased around by the feds for a while, and then that all just cleaned itself up and went away. And what a strange. You got. Oh God! Fingers pointed at Tom Hanks, fingers pointed at Oprah, fingers point Bill Cosby. Well,
Bill Cosby.
There's that famous Oprah picture of her like introducing a young girl to Harvey Epstein. Harvey Weinstein.
I'm not sure I know that one. Oprah, Harvey Weinstein. Okay, I'll chase that one down. There's pictures with Oprah that are. So Oprah knew everyone. So guilt by proximity is a dangerous thing. So one of the problems with the Epstein files is there's a tremendous guilt by proximity. But there's pictures of Oprah with Father of God, which is doing like 10 life sentences for running a satanic cult and murdering children and stuff. And what she's doing hanging around with Father of God. And you got Rosalind Carter with John Wayne Gacy and with another picture with her with Reverend Jim Jones, right? What is Rosalind Carter doing hanging out with those two, right? It just, and you go, at some point, you got to start wondering what's going on in this world. And
also, how about all the California politicians that were tied to Jim Jones and the CIA and
they all come from like three families total for 100 years, right? And the Clinton crime family, holy moly, the crap they got into.
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole thing about it's a club, it's a club and you're not in it. I mean, it's so obvious. It's trite. It's to say it sounds like a meme, but once people want to take, like when these Epstein files dropped and everything, a lot of it was to muddy the water. A lot of it was just noise to try to make you to like sensational stuff, George H.W. Bush and all this stuff and everything. I just want to see what they're saying to each other. That's what I want to see. I want to see how they talk to each other. And these emails just show you that there is this club. And what does Epstein say? He says, if you want, the goy gets to make money by going to work and doing this and doing that, and we make money by financializing it.
So do you think the beef jerky story has been? Do you think they've made the case for beef jerky strong enough to bank? I think the pizza banking. I think the Pizzagate. I think you can bank on that now at this point. But do you think the beef jerky you can take to the bank or no?
I don't know. This is the first we're hearing of that.
That's the
I've
problem.
never
I'd
heard
heard
that any
nothing,
before. Yeah.
nothing.
The pizza stuff was pretty obvious. I don't think we understood exactly, that they were like, you see FBI agents in like the friggin' Cleveland office talking about pizza and everything. You're like, okay, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
This just seems like it's more widespread and everything. I want to concentrate on the things that you can just look at and go, yeah, this is what
It
happened.
tells the story without having to infer.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not in control of our country. That's it. If you want to take anything else away from this, the only thing you need to know is that we're not in control of our country. It's a small cabal, and this, the emails make it clear that it's ethnic because they talk about outsiders in a way, they talk about non-Jews in a way that's derogatory, and it's not just Zionist. I mean,
Right.
if some of these people are not, you're not going to see that they're gigantic supporters of Israel. This is just an ethnic network that has basically taken control of the government, taken control of our country, and taken control of our culture. And it's like, okay, well, what do we do? We're not allowed to talk about this. You get in trouble for talking about it. You get called an anti-Semite. You get called this. You get called that. You get people who go, well, it's not all of us. It's, of course, I know it's not all of you. I mean, come on. It's like, I know I have enough Jewish friends to know that they're not in on this. But the point is that the question nobody wants to ask, and you're not allowed to ask, is does this have something to do with their ethnic background and their makeup, that they believe that they have a right to do this to us? And when you study Zionism, and a lot of the old Zionists say, look, we're better, we're genetically better, these people are here to serve us. Well, I mean, I'm going to take them on their word. I mean, if you want to go read some of the mid-century Jewish philosophers like Leon Ashkenazi.
So we're coming back to this again.
Yes,
we're
yes, we are. Leon Ashkenazi, Leo Pinsker. They clearly say you're not allowed to say a Jew has ever done anything wrong. And Jews are not allowed to admit fault because if you have a close-knit society and you have a closed society, if you start looking and examining it and seeing, okay, are we doing something wrong? That tends to, threaten the cohesion of it. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I've read. Yeah, I'm in the process of, I'm on episode 113 of reading 200 Years Together by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the one book by Solzhenitsyn that Jordan Peterson will not talk about. And it has not been translated officially, quote unquote, into English for a reason, because it talks about 200 years of Russia trying to deal with the Jewish population in Russia and then the Soviet Union, and how they bent over backwards to try and please this population. And then the population tried to overthrow the government in 1905 and finally did in 1917. They were at least the thought leaders in it. So, I mean, and we're seeing it here. We're controlled. I mean, sure, there are there Goyim who are part of this? Sure. But who do they work for? I mean, I'll leave that up to other people. You don't have to friggin' answer the question. I mean, go ahead, Mike.
No, Dave, you got to go, right? 4 o'clock.
I have to go soon. Yeah, we're coming on the 4 o'clock hour.
I know this is like one of those things that you're not allowed to talk about, but Solzhenitsyn.
I'm okay.
Solzhenitsyn.
Hold on, let me. I'm okay with it, but we spent, I don't know, 90 plus minutes talking about it. That's always why I keep like kind of sarcastically bringing it up. So
October 7th to 2023, October 7th, 2023. What have we, it's been the conversation we've had since that date.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is. And then the Epstein files come out, and what happens? You get to see that this is about an ethnic group. And ethno-religious, whatever you want to call it.
Let me bring this up talking domestically then, because as we sit here in the United States and, midterms coming and the next election, do you see things continuing to deteriorate in this country based on what we've talked about now for almost 2 hours? Do you think things are going to continue to decline, or where do you see it going?
Can I take this a little bit, Dave?
Sure.
Well, Trump has done a lot of things. He's closed the southern border. He's defunded a lot. He's made some moves that have really weakened some people and pissed off a lot of people. Will somebody getting elected in 20? So if he loses the midterms, I think it's a pretty good. It doesn't take an educated person to believe that he's going to be dealing with 2 years of impeachment talks. So in 2028, if they decide, if the public decides, or if whoever is running the show decides to turn the voting machines back on in their favor, that somebody who is, not sympathetic to, heritage Americans and the United States being a sovereign country gets in there and, starts to reverse these things. As long as we have elections, we're not going to have permanent change. It's just going to go back and forth. And it always seems to go in the direction of downhill, of negatives. Because, that is just, they built this managerial system. They built a monetary system that is basically being held together by patchwork at this point, and they've done a really good job. Martin Armstrong says that the dollar's not going anywhere, and I respect Martin Armstrong, but other people are like really.
I'm not convinced of that. I'm not convinced I'm not convinced
yeah.
Martin's right on that.
Yeah, and and I can take either side on that argument.
Well, let me make this argument: the dollar reserve currency is for. I asked Lynn Alden one day, why do we need a dollar reserve currency? And she said to write contracts. And which made sense to me, but there's no reason why you can't have a basket of currencies whose value is fixed. You say, look, but it's the euro, the yen, the yuan, the dollar, who knows, and that's some weighted basket. That's what you write your contracts in, and therefore the dollar's gone, and gold would potentially become boringly immobile at that point if you had such a basket of currencies. Although I don't think so, because you can screw up all five of the basket pretty fast.
Well,
I'm optimistic that what Trump represents is a vibe shift, and that is to say that certain things have broken in the direction that we were going. Certain things have been permanently broken. The woke stuff has been really massacred, and people have realized that they just don't like it. That it was an oppressive world, and so I think it's conceivable to me that 30, 40 years from now, historians will look back and say that this was a fork, and we took the right fork.
It's almost a meme to say at this point, but it's not Trump the man. It's the fact that people would vote for him, and that people got behind him and weren't voting for the status quo anymore. They weren't voting.
And that's
for
the
Mitt
same
Romney.
with Mamdani. Same thing. It was anything, none of the above. It was the none of the above. John Stewart called it that. He said none of the above,
I got in a lot of trouble because Marty Bent asked me on his show like a year and a half ago, and I pissed off the Bitcoin people because, Amos wrote that book about the Bitcoin standard and everything. And I'm like, okay, that's great and everything. Sure, I understand exactly what you're saying. But until you get your own people in power and they're going to put that standard in place, and that's libertarians are kind of allergic to power, they think it's immoral, that you're basically at the mercy of somebody else. And then you come forward a year and a half and you see that exactly who runs the country and who's in power and how power really works, Well, I mean, that's not going to happen. You're not going to get that power to make a Bitcoin standard, to have hard currency, to make sure your M1s are gold, silver, and Bitcoin. It's just not going to happen unless you get in power. Yeah, they can't.
Well,
Can they? Yeah.
anything endorsed by Larry Fink's not going to be good.
Bitcoin lost over 4% value today. Last time I saw.
Is that right? Gold's way up. So the funny thing that's interesting, I talked to Marty about it when I was on a show not too long ago, is the fact that Bitcoin and gold are not correlated at all. Bitcoin, and this is something I watch carefully. I think Bitcoin's a fascinating thing. As I've said to so many hodlers, that Bitcoin will be phenomenally interesting to watch when we have our next real live banking crisis, which I think feels like it's coming. I've said it for so many years that people say you're a broken clock. And I go, well, when the broken clock is right, the whole house blows up. You should pay attention to what time it is. But I think Bitcoin's response to the next major crisis will be a very interesting moment. Now, the Bitcoin committee has moved their target where they started out as very libertarian. You can't touch us because we are the masses and the man doesn't have any say. And next thing you know, they're all thrilled that various bankers are acting enthusiastic about it. And some I think understand that there's risk in the fact that the banking system is endorsing it. Others are mindless. Others don't realize that when Larry Fink's on your team, you should be asking the tough question: why is he endorsing it? I could imagine, my dark scenario is that Bitcoin was simply to crowdsource CBDCs, and that the smartest guys in the world were used to develop all the on-ramps and off-ramps and all knock the bugs out, and then they're going to say, we'll take it from here. Now, I think the guys who want Bitcoin might come out well, right? They'll say, hey, your work here is done. Have a nice day. You're gone. They might be able to leave with their profits, or they might be destroyed. And I think it's probably easier for the system to say you get to keep your profits, but it's over. What I'm confident is that Michael Saylor is not going to replace the Rothschilds, to use your language, right? And Max and Stacy are not going to replace the Rockefellers. And I actually see something we didn't talk about at all is a rising force, and that is, I'm not sure is connected, and that's Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is a potential force on its own that may be independent of London, New York, you name it, right? These guys are wielding so much power, so much money.
Who are you talking about? Peter Thiel and Elon and all them?
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah. They're not doing it over the administration. I talked about this in 2024.
Not yet, but there's danger there.
Who are you talking about, though? Yeah. Zuckerberg and Bezos and all that?
Anyone worth $100 billion or more, right?
Yeah.
anyone. The Mag 7. The Mag 7.
I said this in 2024. We were watching like the factions that seems to be fighting for control of the Trump presidency. And, I said it was obviously going to be the Zionist Jews, that there was going, and then you have, it was obvious that with Elon Musk being there, that there was the tech bros there, and that they, it's pretty obvious that they didn't win. They didn't win this battle. They're not going anywhere. Now, if you believe, I've always said that, and I said this probably like 10 years ago, that Palantir, if you were going to like try to take down the government yourself and become the new government, Palantir would be very good, would be something you could use to get dirt on the existing government and be able to wield power using that. And if Kim.com is, I mean, I don't know that I trust anything that the guy says, but I mean, he's been right about a lot in the past.
He's interesting.
It's an interesting theory that's exactly that. If his team did hack Palantir, and they've been collecting information on the most powerful people in the world. Well, I mean,
look what happened to Stratfor when they got hacked, right? That put them right out of business. They wrapped up almost like like in the movies where they said, okay, burn the papers, smash the machines, get the fuck out. It was very quick.
What did Michael Burry know about what Kim.com was doing?
I don't know. What's
Well, Michael Burry has bet against Palantir, saying that Palantir
Oh,
is
that's
going
right.
down.
That's right.
So like,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. That's
And
right. Now, interesting. I talked to a military guy who is a nobody. No offense if he's listening. He's not a nobody in my world, but he's a nobody in that world. Who said now I've tried to find out when Palantir started writing software, not when they went public or anything like that, but when they started writing software. And the number 2002 keeps coming up. He said he saw Palantir software in 96. So Palantir has been under all radars by that model, if he's remembering correctly, by at least 6 years, right? This is like when I dug into directed energy weapons and stuff. I was reading 40-year-old Rand reports. I'm going, holy shit, this is outside the paywall 40 years ago. This is scary stuff. What are they doing behind the paywall now, right? And so I wouldn't mind someone hacking Palantir. Yes, that would be entertaining.
Well, when you check like the weather modification and weather use as a weapon, there's that United Nations document from like 1972.
And LBJ, I think, said something. Whoever controls the weather controls the world, or something goofy like that. There really is some very strange stuff out there. I'm very pessimistic short term. Short term means between now and the end of my life. But longer term, I'm not sure it's game over. To me, this is fourth turning stuff, and potentially a phase.
It can't survive.
It can't
it's
survive.
Unsustainable. It's anachronistic, basically. Our form of government is a national government is anachronistic at this point.
We should read Turley's book. You should read Turley's book.
Do you believe
you'd enjoy Turley's book?
Do you believe in the voting still, Pete?
Locally, I mean,
but the national's rigged. I mean, that's been rigged for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that Trump won. The fact that Trump would win on his own would make sense. Because I don't think you need to cheat for Trump to win in 2024.
That's right.
But I think it would have been I think they didn't turn the machines on, like in Pennsylvania. Right. I think Josh Shapiro, like, because he wants to be president in 2028, would be like, well, if Kamala gets in, then my chances of being president in 2028 are I'm not turning, I'm not participating in any of this. And I think that it was pretty purposeful to let Trump win. And they knew that he could probably have 2 years of doing a bunch of damage, but the midterms, that they would make sure the midterms go in another way. And then the last 2 years of his presidency are just like the last 2 years of his last presidency, where you get.
But I also think he cut deals. He cut deals.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree with that.
So when he was. When the Democratic Party looked like it had choked on its own vomit just too many times in a row, and it was looking like, holy cow, we can't even win with the machines on, as you say. I think they cut deals with Trump, and I said, okay, we'll send you the Silicon Valley guys. But I think 2016 they believed their own bullshit, and they didn't realize that he was going to win. So, like you said, they didn't turn the machines on. WikiLeaks had a lot of election rigging. WikiLeaks having to do, when Obama was running, not that he couldn't win on his own merits.
WikiLeaks revealed the whole Democrat
the Diebold story was WikiLeaks.
Well, the plot against Bernie Sanders,
right?
How the charges they brought up his wife on were completely made up and everything like that, and he had to back down, and he had to back down and start endorsing their candidates.
Right. And so I think they've been rigging elections like it's a big game of capture the flag. And I don't know how far back it goes, but it used to be you could go on YouTube at sort of near the turn of the millennium, and there'd be guys showing how in 30 seconds they can rig the computer of the voting machine to flip the votes and stuff, right? It was trivial. And now you don't find those because YouTube's just fake AI videos and Mike's podcasts. And the question you have to ask as you listen to this are Peter and I real, or are we AI?
I know you're real. I saw you last summer.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
I appear in public all the time. So
Yeah.
people
I know
can come in. The people can come.
I think
shake
Pete's
my hand.
real. I think Pete's real. I don't know for a fact,
the-
but I know Dave's
the,
real.
The AI is getting so good now that you won't, though. I saw some scary AI last week that was really spooky good.
I was watching a silver video that it took me a minute into it to realize it was AI.
And so there was one where they used AI to generate the same scene from the same movie, and they compared the 4 different AIs, and you're sitting there going, "Holy shit! I would not know this was AI at all." And they each created a different sort of view of the scene, and so it wasn't the original movie. It wasn't filmed. It wasn't. And so one thing for sure is you wouldn't want to be a Hollywood actor right now because they're going to put you out of business. They don't need you anymore. And they already make terrible movies, so there's that.
And another thing, though, is our enemies, their propaganda doesn't work anymore because everybody assumes everything's AI.
See, that's where the Epstein files comes back in. I think the Epstein files, even though there's very few smoking guns, the kind where you really say that sends that guy to prison, right? There's very few of those, but I think it's opened the Overton window for way more people than they thought would happen. I think it's possible they thought that the redactions would work, and they didn't realize how effectively 8 billion people can get around redactions as well as they did. And so I think I had a colleague the other day said, you used to talk about A, B, C, and D, and I thought you were nuts. He says, I have to now entertain those ideas. And so it's getting through. So maybe that's a plus. Maybe that's the win.
One last question I want to ask you guys. Pete, were you going to add to that? Because I want to do something
I was just going to say
separate.
that. I was just going to say, and the direction Tucker's taken, and people like Douglas McGregor, and Douglas McGregor's son Cameron is really good on this stuff. And
I don't know Cameron McGregor at all. I don't know. I've not heard of him.
Yeah, he's I've interviewed him a couple times, and very proud to call him a friend. His channel is called where is it?
Whenever I'm on a podcast, all of a sudden I went to Twitter, and all of a sudden it's making me sign in, and I'm thinking they booted me because they're listening to this podcast.
He's his podcast, his channel is called Men and the City: Finance, Freedom, Neo-Masculinity. You should listen to a couple of his videos. He does a lot of travel. He goes to Poland, he goes to Russia, he travels around a lot to try to get his finger on the pulse in different places around the world.
And McGregor seems straight up legit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, he's old school WASP. Michael Jones talks about how. Yeah, Michael Jones talks about how, like, at the time he was growing up in Philadelphia, he was in like the Catholic school. McGregor was in the WASPy really good public school, and and at the same time Benjamin Netanyahu was in the private school on the other side of town. Like, they were all three going to high school at the same time.
So Twitter in 2 different browsers is making me sign in again.
Oh boy.
Interesting.
They're listening to us, Mikey.
So last question. Favorite side for Pete and I, like the movie talk, even though we didn't really get to do a movie talk at the end of the year. But favorite Robert Duvall movie?
Oh man. I mean, he was
give me
so
three. Give me 3.
All right. Great Santini. Amazing movie. Godfather Part 2. In Part 2, he was great. Was he in Deer Hunter?
No,
he wasn't in Deer Hunter. Who am I thinking of?
in Deer Hunter.
Yeah,
Deer Hunter was De Niro, Cazale, Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Do you know John Cazale was only in 5 movies and they were all nominated for Best Picture?
Yep.
Who's John
Wasn't
Cazale?
he
What was he in Deer
Fra-
Hunter? What was he in Deer Hunter?
I don't know what his character's name was. He was the guy that didn't go to war, but he was Fredo.
He was Fredo in Godfather.
Okay.
And he was in the
Okay.
And wasn't
conversation.
he was in he was he and Meryl Streep had
They were
lived
married.
together, right?
They were married.
Yeah, they were married. Yeah.
He was in the conversation. Dog Day Afternoon. Deer Hunter.
Oh,
Godfather
Dog Day-
1, 2.
He's so good in Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, he's featured 5 films and he was all nominated for Best Picture. So we got one more Robert Duvall movie. What's a?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
People are giving me shit because I asked Bracken and Steve Murray this on Friday and none of them mentioned Lonesome Dove. I never watched Lonesome Dove though.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, I know he was only in it for a couple, for a very short
Lonesome
time,
Dove
but
sucked. I thought Lonesome Dove sucked. I started watching it.
When was that? Was that in the 70s?
And it just seemed so corny. I tried to watch it and we gave it up. We said, no, this is.
I mean, Apocalypse Now.
You'd
I mean,
have
it's
to
a very
put that one
short-
on there.
It's very short, but those are pretty obvious. But I thought Godfather 2 really raised his profile as far as acting went, and when he takes
Name a
over
good
as
recent
Don.
movie, rather than going down. Name a recent good movie.
I liked F1.
Is that the?
It's Brad Pitt racing. Pete, all right. I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but Dave, did you see Godzilla? Go ahead.
Yeah,
did.
Godzilla plus.
Dave hated it. I told him to watch
Dave
it.
hated it?
Yeah,
I liked it.
So did
yeah.
I loved it.
I must not be. I watched so many Godzilla movies when I was.
Yeah,
a
but this
kid.
was different. This was a totally different.
So Twitter let me
cinemat-
back in,
the
so we haven't
cinematography
been
was-
canceled.
The cinematography in that was amazing.
And the story,
This
it was
seems-
different. It wasn't about Godzilla. It was about the guilt that the pilot was, carrying with him for the whole movie. I love that movie.
You guys are seeing more than I'm seeing.
was
Yeah,
a
The
good
last,
movie.
the last two Mission Impossible movies were good.
I didn't see. I
I
stopped after the
like
second one.
I like Don't Look Up. The asteroid. The reason I liked it because it was super politicized, but it didn't feel biased. So it was satirical about both parties, I thought.
Where can people find you guys? Dave, I know you under your desk.
The Quiñones show, PeteSubstack.com. That's it.
Dave, under your desk.
Or in jail somewhere. I did. Yeah. You ever play? You ever see someone show up on your Twitter feed and you go, "Holy shit, I didn't see that coming." I just the other day got followed by Megyn Kelly, and I go, "Oh, wow,
That's wild.
That is wild.
Well, the other one is I got followed by Milo Yiannopoulos the other day, and then he made some reference.
That
I
was-
said something.
That was
and he said,
funny.
You saw that?
I
You
saw it.
was
Yeah,
so goddamn funny. 'Cause
What did he say?
He said,
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I wanted to bring this up earlier.
I've always thought of you, which implies a knowledge of me, which I would have not predicted, and he might be lying. But he said, I've always thought of you as a traitor to your generation, and in the purge you might survive.
You might be spared. You might be spared.
You might be spared. And I said, my response was, I had to read that 4 times to realize you were being complimentary. And then I said, I am. You've given me optimism to find out that I might survive the purge. But then one day I posted, you know how I like to post, I think the markets are ridiculously in trouble. And I occasionally I'll post some valuation metric of some big cap company, which could be cut to 20% its current value based on the numbers. And I posted one on Dell. And I analyzed Dell's growth in revenues, which is not that big compared to its growth in share price, which was enormous. And Michael Dell jumped in and gave me shit. I'm going, Jesus, Michael, you must have better shit to do than that. So when Megyn Kelly showed up in my Twitter feed, all of a sudden, General Flynn showed up. And this is just entertainment value for me. I call it playing Twitter bingo, right? At one point, I was playing Twitter bingo with CNBC guys to see how many CNBC guys I could get to follow me on Twitter. And I had quite a few, but Steve Leisman blocked me. I'm blocked by all the climate change guys. They don't like me because I've called them horses' asses.
I have I have notifications shut off when somebody follows me, unless I followed them already, then it'll show up. So I never see like big accounts that follow me.
You wouldn't see them if you've shut those notifications off. You wouldn't see them. You have to go looking for them. Now, the other thing is when I did the Tucker interview, I got 20,000 in about a day and a half. And that just went right by me. It's just like, okay, I don't know who's in there. Alex Jones was in there. I picked up Alex Jones. And
Andreessen still follows me,
showed up.
shockingly.
Andreessen showed up for the second time. He followed and blocked and followed and Don followed and then refollowed. So but again, this is kind of a bingo game.
Eric Prince still follows me.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's an interesting one.
I've actually DM'd with him before.
I got followed by Jack Dorsey. And one day Rudy Havenstein DMs me and says, we're going to get booted off Twitter. I said, why is that? He said, look who Jack just followed. And it was Rudy and I. And I said, no, Rudy, we're not, because I had just made a very favorable comment about the merits of Twitter and said that you were my favorite tweeter. And that someone must have said, hey, Jack, you got to see this. Some guy's not bitching about Twitter. Right. And then he sold the company and he unfollowed everybody. And that was the end of that. But that was an entertaining one. I don't know. It brings entertainment value to a at times depressing experience.
Analytics used to be so much easier. Like you could go into analytics and you could see, oh, the person who followed me in the last month who had the most, has the most followers themselves. And I don't even see that anymore in analytics. Analytics.
Well,
used to be
before
a lot of
the
fun
blue
to be able to
star
see.
was inflationed away to irrelevance. The blue star would tag you. You could watch. It's not to say there weren't important people without him, but when a blue star showed up, you at least said, okay, that person has a high probability of being famous. Not that it's relevant. I have a formula based on who I follow. I don't need to be compelled to follow them based on what they say, but I have, like, first and foremost, some guy who follows 50,000 people. I'm not going to follow that guy back. He's not there to have a conversation.
I don't even know how that's possible. That's got to be some type of system that you're following 50,000.
It must be.
It's
so
insane.
I want to see selectivity. The first thing I want to see is the person selective, such that they've made a decision that there's a reason to follow me, which is really sort of an invitation to open up a communication channel. That to me is to me it's like LinkedIn. And so I care about that. But then once in a while, someone will just catch my attention, but generally, my Twitter feed's gotten worse with time. It's gotten less functional, less useful. Too crowded.
Do you follow Firas Modad?
How do you spell that?
FIRASMODAD. He's on the Lotus Eaters over in Britain. He is, he is a great thinker. I do shows with him and my buddy Ron Dodson every once in a while, and we just
I do now.
yeah.
Firas was following me. I don't know how I would have noticed this. Is the problem? He might have shown up when during the Tucker surge of 20,000.
His breakdown of his breakdown of the Epstein network. He did it on Orrin McIntyre's show recently in the last couple weeks. He just goes at it from geopolitical standpoint. He's a geopolitical guy, and he if you want like an Epstein without the schizo, check that out. It's
so the other thing is good. I have
Dave, last comment. I want to close it out here.
The other thing is that there's clusters. So I have the pedo hunters, and I have the finance guys, and then the guys who are just looking for clown behavior, and I've noticed the categories. There's categories of people who are in there. So in any event, you should let it go. And if we get banned from YouTube forever, I won't be shocked.
Guys, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, man. Appreciate you.
Mic drop.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.